Well, let's talk to Newzroom Africa's Linda Mnisi now, who is in Bloemfontein, and he joins us live. Linda, good morning to you once again. You've had that very difficult moment with the family, and today is going to be particularly painful because they're going to have to go and identify those charred remains of their son.
Indeed, Oli, it's been a very difficult morning for this family who spent the entire morning waiting for police to arrive so that they can go to the mortuary where their son's remains are kept. Throughout the morning, Oli, the mother was breaking down, even during conversations with us. At some point, she opted not to speak anymore. She's just decided she will not be talking anymore because it's difficult for her, and having to wait for this moment is far worse. So it's really an emotional situation. The family is quite devastated. In fact, when I spoke to the grandmother earlier before we went on air, she said that her family has suffered irreparable damage as a result of this. They have so many questions around what happened, how it could have happened, and how he ended up at the Mangaung facility. But the most important task has been around identifying them. You'll remember when we spoke to Bereng's father yesterday, he told us that it was confirmed, indeed confirmed on Saturday to them, that the DNA test that the mother had done did indeed match the body that is in the state's possession, which means that the body that was taken into Thabo Bester's cell was indeed Katlego Bereng. Obviously, the father quite devastated, also given the fact that he had just been reunited with his son in 2018, and they were starting to build, a bond and a relationship. But we know that this morning he'll be joining that family to go and identify that body. I want us to take a listen to the grandmother who lived with Katlego in the very same yard and what she makes of what will happen today.
Go bona setopo seno se tshileng ngwanaka ke tle ke tsebe mohlomong go ba betere ka mona le bana ba ka le family tsa rona e boima e re imetse ntho e bohloko sentse nna ke itukiseditse gore ga nka mmona mane maleng teng mohlomong maikutlo a tla kokobela natleo hona le ntse re mmona tjena ntse trenda di-TV mona ntse le tla he go rona mone le go buisana le rona mare maikutlo a ka mane mo a leng teng.
Linda, a very difficult moment there, and let's talk about this family and how they were separated from their son. So the context here is that on exactly the 3rd of May, 2022, Thabo Bester fakes his own death in that prison cell, and instead of his body being found, instead it was Katlego Bereng, whose family you spoke to this morning. How did the family get separated from their son, and what were they told all along up until the recent revelations?
From what the family is telling us, Paul, it seems Katlego disappeared just 2 months before Thabo Bester's escape, because they're saying that the last time they saw him was after the Easter weekend. In fact, the grandmother saying on Easter Monday, that was the last time that she ever saw or heard from him. He had gotten a peace job, which made him live not far from where they live. He'd occasionally come to get some fresh clothes as well as get some food from the grandmother who lived with him in the very same yard. In fact, we were sitting just next to the shack that he had built inside the yard where he lived in the home. And she says because of that job that he had gotten of driving a taxi, he'd occasionally come home to just get food and all those things that he needed. But suddenly he stopped coming, and she wondered where he might be. It was thought that maybe he could have gotten gone to, his lover, but when she realized that he was not returning home, she then started asking around. She says, I went to his friends, rather, and I asked them where he was, and they told me, what they told me was that it had been a week since they last saw him, which raised, concerns around his whereabouts. She says, ultimately, the mother, who occasionally comes to the house to visit them, came to visit as per normal. And when she asked about her son's whereabouts, the grandmother told her, well, I haven't seen him. He's gone missing. So they then went to the police station to open a missing persons case. They say the police visited them twice. They took the statements and they were given all the necessary information that was needed to open a missing persons case. And they say that was the last time they ever heard from the police. It was on Friday or last week, in fact, when they were contacted then, as per the father's conversation, saying that last week they were contacted to come and take DNA tests. Even that conversation wasn't clear around, the body that the DNA test was being conducted with and why this DNA test was so important. They conducted the DNA test and then they were told on Friday that, in fact, those DNA tests were not conducted properly and needed to be done again. They then went and did the DNA tests again, and on Saturday it was confirmed that indeed the body that was found in cell 35 that Thabo Bester occupied before his audacious escape was that of Katlego Bereng. Obviously, this then triggered a number of questions around what could have happened, because in my conversation with the grandmother, you'll remember, she says, when she's been following this Thabo Bester's case, she got suspicious. She really was suspicious that her grandson's body could be the one that they're talking about in that particular prison. So their worst nightmare was confirmed, and this morning they'll be going to that mortuary to identify. One of the things they're telling me on the sidelines, Xoli, is how they're even going to identify, given the fact that they were told that this body was burnt beyond recognition. Some of the other questions that they have is, because they were told that he collapsed somewhere in town and was taken to the hospital where he died, what could have happened? The trail, the paper trail, at least needs to tell them who was responsible for his body leaving the mortuary. The doctor that treated him, those documents, where are they, in order to substantiate the claim that indeed he did, collapse as a result of loss of blood in town.
What an absolute tragic story. Mnisi, thank you very much, relating the events that led up to this weekend's developments, where that family was ultimately contacted to be told that that body that was found in Thabo Bester's cell was indeed that of their son.